So today I'm going to talk about pain, injury, and movement. What probably would have just been a better title though for today is just really my thoughts and a good amount of my being on a high horse. That would be a Pegasus. For what I've learned over the first 3 years of having the wonderful opportunity to be a PT in CrossFit Gym, which I'm super grateful for. I've learned so much more this way, and it's so fun being a PT in a CrossFit Gym. Yeah, so I don't have like tons of research I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to super nerd out on things. I'm really going to talk about pain, but really like how to more properly manage it, and kind of a paradigm shift. That's hard for us all to make, including me as well, because human psychology is hardwired to react more than plan, right? First thing I want to talk about is a quick little discussion openly about what exactly is pain. I've been to some continuing education, and I've done, specifically the most recently, the last 3 courses I did were all on dry needling, big surprise. And in dry needling, a lot of the education before you get to the practical stuff is about pain and what it is, and kind of pain science, which they still don't like totally have figured out per my perspective. And I'm going to go to Max and Alyssa here a lot too, if you guys have anything to add or comment on that. Like, isn't pain like this weird amorphous thing that we still don't totally have figured out? Was it like the pain receptors we kind of have figured out, but like it's more than just that.
It's between your ears.
It is between your ears, absolutely. Yeah. So what do you guys think pain is? What do you think of when you think of pain?
I think of inflammation.
Inflammation? Okay.
A warning.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Okay.
A warning.
A warning.
Ooh.
Ding 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 ding. Teacher's pet.
Busting the curve.
Okay. Anyone else?
A feedback loop?
Feedback loop. Yes, she's piggyback. Man, the Chris Sell entourage.
Yeah.
Killing it. Okay. Great. Anyone else? It doesn't have to be like fancy answers. You don't have to make me happy.
I don't like it.
What's that?
I don't like it.
You don't like it, right? Yeah, it sucks, right? And that's how it can be a helpful warning sign and can become a feedback loop if we manage it properly. Anything else? Okay. I'm surprised. I mean, maybe some of you are thinking about this, but like I'm surprised some of you didn't say knees, back, like areas, right? Like areas are painful, right? But it's also largely a perception, if not entirely, up here, even though you feel it down here. It's all communication through the nervous system, right? Okay, inflammation. I feel like I could do a whole talk on inflammation. So let me talk about that briefly, even though it's not at all in my notes. Hi.
Hey, Sarah, just want to make sure you're recording.
Yep. Here and there.
And now I'm on the Zoom.
Yeah. So people associate. So Jane, can you expand on inflammation before I just kind of assume? You're not wrong.
No.
Okay. She commented no. She can't expand on inflammation. So in a lot of that, you speak for a lot of people. Like, oh, it just feels really inflamed and swollen. But half the time when people say that, honestly, my perspective is I don't see any actual swelling compared to the other side. And inflammation, technically, it should be swollen and hot. Yeah, it should be kind of an acute injury, an acute flare-up, but a lot of times...
Almost like a burning.
Yeah, burning, like hot, active, talking to you. Yeah, so really quickly, this is not in all of my notes, but we have... so I'll use tendons as an example. So everyone's heard of tendonitis. So itis means inflamed. But we have a bigger, we have a bigger terms, so tendinopathy, so just pathology of a tendon. And then from here, we have two main deviations. We have we have tendinitis, and then we have tendinosis. So this is, so like we said, it's inflamed, it's hot, it's burning. Can anyone else give me words they think of when tingling? Okay.
Hard to
You
move.
say poopy?
Poopy.
Poopy. Yes, thank you. So swollen. You can say poopy
Stiff.
too. What's that? Stiff. Yep. Sure.
Sometimes achy.
Achy. Yep.
Or throbbing.
Throbby.
There you go, that's what I'm looking for. Thanks,
Mhm.
Cassie.
Acute. Yep. Wait, the floors. Anything else? Okay, has anyone heard of tendinosis? Max Weissman again.
I don't, I'm a rebel.
Okay, Shannon, you've heard of tendinosis. What's your understanding of it? Or where did you hear of it?
One of my many trips to ortho.
Ortho, okay. And where did you have a tendinosis? If you don't mind sharing, where did you have a tendinosis?
I didn't,
Oh.
but
They just talked about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
in regards to details.
Okay. It's either an itis or an osis. Okay. Okay, so osis is, I'm going to put here, old and cold. So it is not hot, so too hot to not. Throw back to hypoxia from 18. And it's not a lot of these things. Although it could definitely be achy. What was that? Chronic, yeah. Yep. Hence the old part of old and cold. And it can hurt. It can hurt during activity, but it also hurts when you're not moving it too. Well, that's the same for itis too. Anyway, so like I said, I said half the time, but a good amount of the time, I won't put a percentage on it. People will say things feel swollen and inflamed, but again, like I feel the skin. It's not hotter than the other side if it's a side-to-side issue. It doesn't appear to be swollen. And you know, if I probe, oftentimes they would not say it's burning or tingling, unless they're in an acute flare-up of an osis. So an osis, so itis like acute, right? What your body's telling you that moment is don't move it, this thing let me heal. An osis is an adaptive response over time, potentially from itis moments over and over again. But it's an adaptive response. The body starts thickening the tendon in this case to try to make it better, but it's a maladaptive thickening that won't work in the long run. And it doesn't respond to treatment the same as itis. So that's an important distinction. Like anti-inflammatories would help with inflammation here. There's no inflammation here. So there's nothing to anti-inflame. So just an important distinction. Yeah, and this also won't get better from rest. Like you'll have less of it one moment. So you'll have less pain if you rest once you resume activity initially, but it's going to come right back. This you're more likely to get better from rest, especially if it's like just the first time. But again, this won't get better from rest. This needs interventions like the things that I'm trying to indoctrinate you all with, between smashing everything, flossing, all that good stuff, trying to break up tissue.
So would you say an itis is a new injury, more considered a new injury?
Or
if it's not corrected or healed right?
Correctly, it goes into a osis.
yeah, you have enough itis moments that can transfer over into an osis. Whether it's one big one, and then maybe you didn't rest enough, and or do the proper things to recover for that, and then resumed activity, and then eventually the tendons can start to thicken. Yep.
That pretty much answered my question. Like if you take ibuprofen for your itis and then you allow yourself to rest, And then is it also about proper body mechanics to not go back to itis? Is it like you're getting itis because you're not properly lifting, or?
You can definitely get itis. So the question was about, now I don't know what to say. I just want to say it for the mic, but, yeah, so you can get itis from lifting improperly, running improperly, paddling improperly, over and over and over, just sub-ideal movement patterns. You can also get itis from just falling and wrecking, too.
Overuse as well?
Yeah, you can get itis from overuse, but that's probably, I don't know if I can say this either. I was going to start to say an overuse itis is maybe more likely to turn into an osis. But at the same token, you could have a really big acute injury. Like, so I sprained my wrist really bad mountain biking in Moab a couple months ago, and then I resumed activities on it maybe a little bit sooner than I should, and if I don't manage this, it could still turn into an osis too, even though it was originally a big acute 1 incident. So both acute and subacute poor movement patterns, starting with an itis, can go to an osis. Clear as mud?
Yes.
Okay, so another way to sum up what I'm going to talk about today is kind of just like challenging common thinking and dispelling myths in some way. So if something keeps hurting, like it's important to like correct and say it's not like it might not be actually inflamed, like because that means all these things are happening. That means you just need rest. Like no, like if it's old and cold, you need to attack the problem. Does that make sense? Okay, so the main thing I want.
Can
Yes.
osis still be kind of swollen, even if it's old and cold?
I would say that that's probably an acute flare-up of an osis. Max or Liz, anything to add to any of that? I just don't want to do the talk on my own, so I'm just reaching out. Okay, so I want to talk about pain further in terms of self-management. So I love working with all y'all, but I also want you to not need me. Like, yes, the PT can conveniently open a CrossFit gym, say, yeah, round your back over and do that deadlift, come and see me in the office. That's truly not what I'm going for, and this is my way to try to prove that. And we really want everyone who comes through this space for their bodies to be better in the long run. Yeah, you might get dinged up a little bit here and there. I like to say that CrossFit is a litmus test for where your body's at and just highlights your problems sooner than you maybe would have come up on your own. So we know that, and we want to try to empower you. Like, okay, so my shoulder hurts anytime I go overhead. What are the things I can start looking at on my own and try to problem solve on my own? But we all of us, like at baseline, we have some level of being a little bit more, I would argue, a little bit more reactionary than proactive. It takes a lot of work in adulting to be better at being proactive, whether it's, people think about that more classically with like finances, like I need to be proactive and save money for the future. Well, let's talk about like, let's be proactive and do work on our bodies before we have pain. That's ultimately what I would love you all to take at least a little bit of that from your time here. So we have the I3 model, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about now, like John says a lot, Steal Like an Artist, has been heavily influenced by Kelly Starrett, who you all know as a PT and in the CrossFit world. There's a big presence, but then also a great cook who has developed some awesome stuff for not just the therapy world, but for athletic performance and work restoration and things like that. He's developed some models to help establish a baseline of movement. So in CrossFit we have, okay, like you should be able to squat hip crease below knee and then stand up all the way. Well, Greg Cook has some movement screens where he says you should be able to do all of these things. Some of you actually experienced that when you joined up. I used to start with that. So like you should be able to, on a 2x4 lunge like this, with a let's see if you can do it, with a PVC here. The struggle's real, so a PVC here, and do it with several reps in a row and not fall off. So yeah, let's move our thought process to how can I be preventative? What are basic movement essentials that I should have to be able to do CrossFit or hunt for miles over miles and expect your body to hold up, or to ski or mountain bike, all of those things. So the I3 model, we have the first I is incomplete mechanics. So we are all, sorry to burst your bubble, we are all walking around with incomplete mechanics, whether, including myself, whether you want to believe that or not. Second I is incidence of injury, or I'm sorry, pain. Incidence of pain, and then, am I writing big enough, or is that kind of small? Good enough. And then the third one is injury. So, guess which one catches our attention the most?
Injury.
Yeah. And then second most? Yeah. And then who's aware of this?
When you nag me.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
You pointed out all my
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
I'm really just projecting my own issues onto you. It's therapy for me. Thank you for providing me with free therapy. So somewhat self-explanatory, right? But just a cool way to think about it. So where do you think we can exercise the most bang for the buck? Yeah, right. So this is the most attention grabbing. So I can't draw a wow face. Maybe I can. Let's use emoticons. The wide eyes.
The hair blowing back really helps for a while.
So like something like that. Like whoa, I'm injured. And then here, everything's hunky dory. You have no idea what's going on. You're so happy. Like, things are sweet, nothing hurts. Here, like maybe we have like half smile, but then it's flat.
With a raised eyebrow.
Okay, so incomplete mechanics. So this is things like, things I'm trying to push on you guys, like, can you, with the full palm down on a very simple shoulder impingement test, can you cover your eyes? Like, if you, so someone's saying no, without ducking the head. So a little head ducking back there, or shrugging. So, no, without getting too picky, like, without just like looking straight at something, can you cover your eyes? So I can start too, but I still have some work to do. Jacob, you want to show us your left side? But that's your right side.
Your other right.
Right. So starting. Wait, Jenny, show me one of your better sides.
One of your better sides. How many sides do you have?
So like she starts to hit herself in the forehead, like she's less likely to get at least in the shoulder. Yeah, okay, so right shoulder might be a little tired and tightening up from everything. Might have some tendinosis going on. So it's going to tighten up quicker. So like that's a movement standard, like that I like to preach. Like if you don't consistently have that, then like let's talk about expectations. Like, do you expect to keep training, working your shoulder overhead in CrossFit or in life, and expect things to be hunky-dory? I'm going to tell you no. Like eventually, it's not a matter of if, but when it's going to start hurting. Whereas if like, you can consistently walk into the gym every day and show me you're hitting yourself in the forehead with your elbow on that shoulder impingement test, like you're probably not gonna have at least a shoulder impingement issue unless you like fell or did something extreme. Or like missed on a muscle up and did that weird twist out thing. But you're not gonna have it from overuse, is more what I'm getting at. Other things like, I like to say that the couch stretch can actually be a movement standard. I've been pushing this on Shannon, like, can you with a good spinal position make your butt touch your heel, and can you squeeze your butt in that position? Can you show me that you can still recruit your hip extensor while you're stretching your tight hip flexor? If you can, you're less likely to have a lot of things. Knee pain, little less so hip pain, but I would say hip pain too, back pain, and even you could make connections to that being tight in foot and ankle problems. Yeah, and even opposite side earlobe problems. So things like that. I actually want to do a whole talk one day on like what are movement standards that you should be working towards if you want to expect things to go just fine in life in the gym. Yeah, any questions or comments on this section? Okay. So yes, this would be, if we all like knew, like I don't even know all of the wonderful movement patterns and standards, sorry, I don't even know all of the movement standards that we should all be working towards. Like, but part of the problem is just creating awareness, right? And then start working on those things. And these are really good areas to focus on. If you get into here and here, well then I'll show you this, and then even once you're out of these regions and you don't have pain anymore, like you don't stop working this until you've actually hit that standard, and then you don't need to worry about these coming back. Because how much does it suck for those of you who have dealt with chronic issues to like go to waffle here or to waffle even here? Like say you get all the way to injury and then you deal with a shoulder injury, let's say, 'cause that's my perception, the biggest injury we've had in the sim, the most common injury, and then you get to here, and then you finally get to here, and you're here for like even a couple weeks or a month, but as soon as you have one moment of this again, where does your brain go? I'm still injured. And you're probably not still injured, you probably just had a tiny flare-up, and this still hasn't been met. And that's the thing that I don't think I've done a good enough job of impressing upon you guys to help you better self-manage your injuries that then are when you're in recovery. Does that idea make sense?
I think you've helped us recognize incidents of pain before they become more of an injury though.
Sure.
Definitely, that's been a big thing I've noticed.
Awesome.
Is being able to recognize something's off before it becomes something serious, more serious.
Yes. Yep. And so, and this is really just like also like, here's where I'm at in meeting you. So it started here like, oh crap, you have a big problem. Like let's figure that out. And then we're starting to build awareness collectively as a group here, and I'm starting to build awareness better and like recognizing these things sooner in you and myself. And like it's just a wonderful, beautiful progression to start moving into here with you guys and with myself. Yeah. So instance of pain. Who can give me a good example? Did anyone feel any pain today working out? Like, it'd be picky. Like, let's call small discomfort when you're just warming up as pain. Like, let's be, like, count it all. Small things or big things. Okay, Talia.
When we're doing the Spider-Man thing,
Sure.
when I rotate up, I can feel.
Still feel your shoulder. Okay. And so, did you feel it every time you rotated it on the right? Did it get better, or did it stay the same as you kept doing those reps? Or did it get worse?
Stay the same.
Stayed the same. Okay, so that's significant, right? Okay, thank you for that. Does anyone else have an example? Okay,
My hip and wall balls,
okay. Do you,
which is flared from the thrusters on whatever day that was, so it's just a little sore
sure,
still.
sure. So still talking to you. It's not like debilitating. You can still squat fairly deep, but it's probably compromising mechanics a little bit. You're going to be more comfortable, and I'm just saying this because I've watched her and know the issue somewhat. So Jade will hide by hide that pain more by rounding the spine more, because that's actually less hip movement. Yeah, so good at that.
Nailed it.
So did you feel it on the first couple warm-up reps in the pause wall balls?
Yes,
Okay, did it get better or worse?
better. As it
Okay,
went up.
so it got better. So that's a better situation than what Talia felt. But it's still not, okay, I'm gonna argue it's still not okay.
It's not.
Right, and I'm not being critical of you.
Oh.
This is just what I wanna make clear to people, like, because that's the more dangerous situation, I think, for you to get duped into thinking it's not that big of an issue. As you warm up, it gets better. By the end of the workout, did you feel it at all? Okay, so you're not left with it at the end of the workout, still reminding you it's still an issue. You're like, oh, I had a great workout, I had these endorphins going on, maybe even some adrenaline, if it was like a crazier workout. And then like, will if we didn't talk about this right now, will you have thought about it the rest of today?
I would have felt it throughout the day.
Oh, you would have, okay. Okay, so that's a little good, because you're getting the feedback, because pain is information, right?
Just discomfort, like I know it's there.
Sure.
Like certain movements.
Try to sit in a funky way on the couch and like, oh, there it is.
Bend over, yeah.
Right. So did I see another? Yes, Liz.
What about the difference between new, like, whoa, this is totally new, it feels painful, but it's not something
Like the
that's
movement's new or the pain's new?
both.
Oh, so
like
that
you
happens
have
today.
like, yeah, so like you have, and like I coach too, and I have kids that have never paddled, and they get in the canoe, and they're like, oh, this hurts, and I'm like, oh no, it's a good new, it's new,
Sure.
your body is just starting to
Sure.
like, recognize this, and it's going to get easier as you learn. So that's what I was telling myself. I'm like, oh, at the end,
This is new. You
Yeah.
got this.
I was like doing the pedaling, and my left shoulder, like normally it's my right, but my left shoulder was going, wow, this is really, and it felt like vibration.
Oh,
more than
I'm sorry, did you say pedaling or paddling?
pedaling.
Oh, so on
I,
the bike.
yeah, when I was
So
on
you
the bike
felt
at
your
the
left
very end.
shoulder.
Yeah, my left shoulder, and so I was like, wow, this is new, it's my left shoulder. And then, of course, I said, did you compensate? Were you not using your right shoulder and you didn't? And I was like, no, so.
Right, and it's hard to figure out. I mean,
So then I was wondering, what is the difference from just recognizing new, your body doing something for the first time? Because I have kids come in and they're like, whoa, I've never done this, and it hurt. Or I say, is it painful or is it just sore?
Right.
Normally they just say, oh, it's sore.
how old are the kids you work with?
14 to 18.
Well, with kids, and it's so age dependent, and it's so even with adults, it's still person to person, like trying to figure out where they're at and like their understanding of like pathological pain and or like muscle hurting, right?
Yeah.
Like, so especially with kids, like they might think that burning you feel in a muscle from doing a lot of reps of something is
Yeah,
they'll still just say pain. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel good.
right.
So like they globalize the word pain and everything's painful. But then as we grow older, we learn, well, there's good pain and bad pain. And I think that's a journey of like really having a mindset of trying to understand where people are coming from and then to decipher, because sometimes they think they know but they don't. Or it doesn't match how I would describe it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a clear as mud answer. Some more objective things, like you can give them a pain scale. If it's more than 3 out of 10, consider that something worth dialing back. If it's less than 3 out of 10, like maybe you can be more okay with it. And then also the follow-up when you're done with whatever the activity is, does it linger or does it go away? So if it lingers, then maybe it's too much. If it goes away, probably not too much.
Can we do that as adults as well?
I do that with adults. Yep.
You can say like she knows that she has this reoccurring hip thing, so
Yeah.
hers is more like a pain of seriousness of a 5.
Sure.
But, like for me, since that's the first time, I could say, oh, that's probably a 3, and if it doesn't come back, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good, but I'm also at the same time saying that still was some form of information.
So it's an incomplete mechanics I'm probably dealing with.
You probably have an incomplete mechanic issue, whether that is, I forgot to talk about this. Within incomplete mechanics, thank you, Liz, You can have weakness, you could have a motor control issue, which could be either weakness or like coordination, or you can have a stiffness issue. And oftentimes there's a blend of those things within incomplete mechanics. But so for people that are part of this community and they have access to me fairly often, like, I'm going to say, I care about your 0.5 out of 10. And I want to delve into that, but that's because we can have a lot of interactions and try to figure these things out. When you're working with kids, and you maybe don't, how often do you see them?
5 times a week.
Oh, okay, so you're pretty, so you can maybe delve into those, get a little pickier with it. But like, let's go to the other extreme. You go and see a doctor, and you're like, oh, I did this bike thing at CrossFit for the first time, and my shoulder hurt. Well, he's gonna say, he or she is gonna say,
Don't do CrossFit.
don't do CrossFit. You're gonna die. You're gonna get CrossFit cancer. And then, so did it like give you a number? You're gonna say 3 out of 10, and he's gonna ask you to hang around. You're gonna say no. He's gonna move on. He or she is gonna move. They, you guys know they is now singular, according to
Yeah.
Webster or something.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
gender identity.
So they is gonna say.
Yeah.
That, like, oh, you know what, if it starts bugging you more, let me know. Here's a cortisone shot. Start taking some ibuprofen, right? And I'm not blaming they as doctor, because it's hard when you don't have a lot of opportunity to follow up. Like, you're seeing the doctor maybe every quarter or once a year or something, so they're gonna triage, right? But the more contact points you have with a person or a group of people, the more you can delve into details.
But
that-
Liz,
yeah.
Liz did mention she's coaching 36 kids.
So, by yourself,
No, there's a rotation of like 4 of us.
but
Usually-
at any one practice, are you
it's
the only
usually-
one?
Yeah, or
So-
someone else.
So then triage.
Yeah,
Use the 3 out of 10 rule,
yeah.
and did it linger after? As best as you can. Does that help?
Tremendous, thank
Okay.
you, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, where was I? Incidents of pain. Okay, talking about pain and warm-ups as information as to, like, still something's not right. And if it doesn't linger and it gets better, that's the dangerous situation, because then you're not left with an impression. And if you don't feel it later in the day, like, that's a more dramatic case of, you might get duped into thinking it's not really an issue, but if you pay attention to that issue, you're going to prevent ever getting here. And that's the hard thing to remember, because we're not hardwired to think like that, right? We have to program our prefrontal cortex more to get better at working on things like this and this sooner, right? Just like the same thing with finances. It's like, right now, it's easier and easier to borrow money when you don't have money, and to buy things because they're so accessible now. And so they're just hijacking the more primal parts of our brain and overriding our prefrontal cortex. You can look at pain and injury the same way. So, and then obviously everyone is aware there's a problem when there's an injury. Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about that too much. One of the big things I want to talk about today was incidents of pain. I think we're already getting better at that, but my challenge for everyone here today, when you're warming up for anything, whether it's CrossFit, paddling, like if you feel something, you feel your right shoulder, as you warm up, but it gets better, like, don't forget about that and start delving into that. And so you guys have me, like, take note of that if you're not already, and then tell me about that when we're having a conversation, whether I'm coaching you, or whether we're just talking before or after our class about, like, what's going on, or if we're doing a more formal PT mobility session. Like, take note of what you feel in warm-ups. I think that is a low-hanging fruit for managing your body for the longevity of CrossFit and just for life. If we catch problems in warm-ups and work on them, then, like, think about the time and money and resources in your life you have saved from letting it get to this point. Yeah. So there's my soapbox on the warm-up dealio. Questions on that?
So if you have chronic pain,
Sure.
so is that 3 out of 5 always the
3 out of
way?
10.
3 out of 10.
Yeah. So 30%, not 60%. Yeah, keep going.
I'm always scaled back a little bit. So the 3 out of 10, that would be, because I might start at a 3 out of 10
Sure.
when I get here.
Sure. So like, is that, so for you, Shannon, is that worth it? Like, should your number be different? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Or like, if I listened to that, Gabe, I would
I
be
would never
sitting on
work
my
out.
couch.
Yeah,
Right, okay, so yes, your number might need to be different, but we just have to anchor on a number. Maybe your number is 5 out of 10. Because, and I saw this post on Instagram from Barbell Physio, Zach Long out of one of the Carolinas. Really respect that guy and what he's putting out there. He put up a post about how something about how the relatively small to medium orthopedic or musculoskeletal issues we get from time to time training hard in the gym is worth the trade-off for the metabolic health benefits that we get to lower our chance for chronic disease and all that stuff. So for you, Shannon, like, again, trying to meet you where you're at and knowing that you deal with pain every day, like, yes, I might move that number to 5 out of 10. We just need to find a number to anchor to it and manage within that. And make sure that we are getting that trade-off. Are we getting those metabolic health benefits to help your longevity overall? Like, maybe your knee hurts when you're 90 every time you stand up from a low chair, but at least you're 90 and alive, right? And so that's the trade-off. Does that help? Okay. Any other questions or comments?
What about,
Kristen.
I find my pain in mobility, that's the most painful
Oh,
part of CrossFit for
okay.
me.
Yes.
So is it the end of the workout and like I hate low couch stretch. I
Which
think
means
I
you
do,
should
I've
run
never
right.
actually done it. I just kind of put myself in that shape. So what does that mean? I mean, do you treat it as the same warning as pain during the workout? Maybe
Okay.
I've gotten so good at compensating during the workout that I don't really notice that stuff till we get to mobility.
Sure. So our bodies are great at working around problems.
Yeah.
We will find a way. Our bodies are like water. We'll find the best way
Mhm.
to get the job done. So pain and mobility, when we're doing soft tissue work, joint mobilizations without realizing it, or stretching, putting tissues at end range, of course I'm going to say that pain is good pain, but it's still inflammation. So if you kettlebell quad smash, and let's say your outer quad is like super painful on one side but not the other, like ding 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 ding, that is in some way that's incomplete mechanics and an incident of pain.
Okay.
So yeah, every time we're doing mobility, we're having an incident of pain, but like it's like a good incident of pain, but that's still telling you that tissue's not healthy.
Especially like if couch stretch is even worse on one side.
Yeah.
And horrible on the other side.
Yep. Like I would say to you, Chris, like if you could just do couch stretch on that one side for like 2 weeks and just make it more even, you have vastly improved your system, because when you're different side to side on soft tissue health, joint health, things like that, without realizing it, you are having this rotational torque.
All the time.
That's redundant. Just having torque put into the system with all the movements you do in a very subtle way, and all of a sudden, like 3 years from now, 3 more years of CrossFit, you might have back pain upstream from that, and that's an indirect source of the pain.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Anything else? Gosh, time flies. And the computer turned off. Okay.
So if you, just like
Thank
you
you.
said, if you quad smash and one side hurts and the other doesn't, that's something seriously to know.
Yeah, like that. You should chase that pain away on that side by doing more pain. Yeah.
And also try to find out like where the cause of that is, why that one side just hurts.
Yeah, and you, I'm gonna say to you, Tilia, like use me and the coaches to figure that out, because it's also a rabbit hole of like trying to figure that out. And that's part of why people just it's like so conveniently easy if something gets better as you warm up, because you avoided going down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out where that's coming from. Like, I'm still trying to put all of the connections together. But I would say to you, like, for now, for the time being, just make them even. And then if you have any problems upstream or downstream from that, still, even once you've made that even, then we can try to figure out where did maybe that increased quad tenderness on that one side come from. Is it come from, like, maybe you always stand this way and you don't stand the other way? It could be that simple. Or maybe every time you squat, your pelvis is shifted that side, that quad's working harder. I don't know, but it's like trying to find what is the low-hanging fruit, what's the minimal effective dosing. Like, take care of the problem, and if you still have problems after that, then we look more. Then we go down the rabbit hole more. Yeah. Thanks for the stall tactic while I got the computer back on. Any other questions? Some things I should make these clarifications, like, I think this is worth talking about. So you can like kind of live between these two worlds for a while, right? Like and like this is a spectrum, it's not like they are definitive categories, but you can live between them, and be in each and keep going back and forth. But I think some important distinctions are, like, I would say you're more in an injured state when like it doesn't, or who can, let's get some more audience participation. When do you think it's an important distinction? When do you think you're more injured?
That's when you can't do something.
Okay, so you're more likely to get injured then. When would you say you're more in an injured state versus you no longer have
Affects
instances?
daily life.
Affects daily life. ADLs. Yep. So activities of daily living. Like you're feeling, I would argue that you're more in this category if you're feeling it in life consistently. And not to scare, well, maybe to scare you a little bit, because we are very motivated by fear, but also like for you to own it. Like this is like I can't keep hoping it getting better in the warm-ups is enough. Like no, not at all. Like we have crossed the line. Anything else? Did I hear other distinctions?
Well, I mean, for injury, I said if you can't do something.
Yeah.
Like you're actually stopped from a certain.
Yeah. So you could say pain with it or loss of. Yeah. Great. Anything else?
Just completely changes your life. I mean,
Change.
you can't, whatever the injury is, just.
So what is losing these things? What does that lead to?
Less activity.
Less activity, right?
Pain.
Pain. So how about quality of life? Like overall, just looking at your life, like I came into CrossFit and want to get more fit, or like really love the competitive side of it, but now every time I turn my head when I'm driving, I get pain shooting up my neck, and I no longer like driving. Like that sucks. And it's gonna happen, and I need to own as a PT in a CrossFit gym and as an owner, like that's still gonna happen. As hard as I try, all of us to get more in these realms and working in these realms, it's still gonna happen. We're still gonna get the oh crap moments, but if we can lessen those, that'd be great. So loss of quality of life or decrease. QOL. Anything else?
Affects sleep.
Ooh, yeah. Wakes you up? I would say especially if it wakes you up. If you wake up and you feel it, that's maybe in between the two, but probably still more injured. But if it wakes you up, great, Shannon. That's an offense.
I'm an injury expert.
Thank you for your expertise. Affects sleep, great.
I'm a professional, yeah.
Anything else? You could maybe argue as well, like, being above that 3 out of 10.
All
Often.
the time.
Yeah, all the time. It's just to quantify it. Oh, so what do you guys think the secret to happiness is?
CrossFit.
CrossFit.
Yes.
Teacher's pet.
High quality of life.
Okay, quality of life. Yep. And let's get it. So that's a great example. Let's pull away from that even more, though. Were you gonna say something? Oh, nice. Yeah.
Being able to do stuff.
Being able to do stuff so that you can feel like you have a quality of life, whatever. So
Oh, choices.
choices. Okay, now we're getting bigger picture, more philosophical. Yep. Acceptance. Oh,
Like you're injured.
acceptance to reality. Well, I'd say that's a step
Very
towards
good.
getting happy again. Right. Yeah. So go through the stages. Anyone else? That you are kind of building towards bigger picture things, so that's helpful. Community, actually, yeah, that's huge. I've heard of research talking about why people who are very religious are the most happy. It's because they have a sense of community.
Liz said purpose.
And that's not the only reason, but what?
Purpose?
Having a
Liz
sense
said
of purpose? Sure.
What was the question again?
That's a secret of happiness.
What's the secret to happiness?
Oh.
Money.
Who said what?
Money. Everybody was thinking it, I just said it.
What did you say?
Money.
Money. Well, what does money do? It gives you power to do
Then
what
you
you
have
want. Yeah, then you have choices, right? Yeah. So having choices and the ability to do what you want, I would say, is a big component to happiness. How about expectations?
What's
Bad.
the purpose?
So,
Being able to manage your expectations
okay,
with
yeah,
reality.
sure,
This-
sure. Thank you. That was a great answer. Anyone else?
Achieving goals.
Achieving goals. In what's a big part of goal setting and goal accomplishment?
Experience.
Having expectations based off of
Accountability.
Reality.
accountability. Buzzwords. Reality. Reality is what I was going for. Whatever your perception of reality is, it's hopefully down into what's actually happening. Sure. So what I'm getting at is, so managing expectations in life. I would listen to a TED Talk once about, and I don't remember a lot of the details of it, so I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but of a brilliant, at least millionaire whose son was like one of the most wonderful people in the world. Truly sound like the essence of his son was like the essence of altruism. And his son died for something that like was seen like very young. And the father gave a little talk about how he learned the most in his life from his son, and that happiness is really about managing expectations. And he had like mathematical formulas to prove it. I don't even know how he did that, but like the secret to happiness isn't low expectations. It's having realistic expectations, like being real about what's happening, and then setting up goals based off of that. So, what part of me talking about and plugging the incidence of pain and warm-ups is, hey, like reality check, like that's a problem even though it got better. And the better you build awareness of that, own it, and then manage it and set expectations. And then furthermore, once you learn more about movement standards and realize that like, oh, like I need to be able to like hit myself in the forehead and never worry about my shoulder again, the happier you're going to be, because you're just not going to run in, you're less likely at least to run into that problem going down the line. So we talked about warm-ups as a diagnostic. So things that I've been trying to focus on recently, like not even just looking for pain, like going a step further into the incomplete mechanics, like my first couple air squats in a warm-up, like how tall do I feel like my chest is, how much can I push my knees out, things like that. On the rower, how the catch position feels, like is it easier for me to keep my back straight? Can I look like Max on the rower? You guys need to check out Max on the rower. Like he's got like his spine is like it looks perfectly neutral. It needs wound up the chain a whole bunch. I have a mobility man crush on that. Don't worry, Jacob, we're still biking buddies.
I'm gonna say there it is.
Do you have my shoulder to cry on?
So things like that are worth, like, warming up with intent is probably the bigger topic to talk about. Like, it's fun to chat with people as we warm up because, like, that's, like, part of why we're here is community. And I don't want to take away from that, but at least, like, one of the 2 or 3 rounds we're doing in the warm up, you should attend to how your air squats feel, how your catch position in the rower feels, things like that. Like that, the more you delve into that, even though it becomes a slippery slope at times, you definitely need to get more out of it. Soapbox off. Maybe. Okay, so the value, oh my gosh. Okay, last thing I want to plug is, you know how with you guys a lot, I talk about testing and retesting. And then, I walk you through that, we test this, then we do some work on your lats or whatnot, and then retest it and it's better. Like, if you aren't doing that on your own, you need to mobilize with intent. If you're not giving your brain context to whether or not that terrible pain you felt smashing something or scrubbing something actually did anything, is your brain going to get more buy-in if you don't test and retest, if you don't see gains? Like, if you don't give your brain incentive to go through that pain, because it's a long process, right? It's easy to get lost in the weeds. If you don't give yourself the little, like, am I getting any better every time I smash and go through this terrible discomfort, then do you think you're going to start getting hooked on doing it? Right. So Jenny made a comment, like, it's a little bit harder right now in comp training, in competitive training, because we just had hypoxia. It's like, what am I doing now? What am I working towards? Like, we all do better with goals and managing expectations. So that test, retest, like, if you're not doing that every time you smash, stretch, scrub, whatever, that is a missed opportunity to get better buy-in and really, really make everything work faster. Does that make sense? I have to be done now. The next class has started. Please feel free to give me feedback, whether in person, right now,